Good morning, everyone. This is Yasir Majid from Student Solution Canada. I hope everybody is doing good and keeping yourself safe and healthy in this very challenging time. Guys, this is a very special session for today because we have come across with a lot of requests from the last sessions we did from last week to have a Canada Lakehead University session, especially. So here we go. This is especially for those who are looking to study in Canada, and this is your opportunity to ask questions and to talk to Lakehead University representative today. Uh, Before I invite our special guest from Lakehead, I would like to give a bit of introduction about the Lakehead University in Canada. Lakehead University's main campus is based in Thunder Bay. It's a 50-year-old university. It's one of the very top 10, it's one of the very best universities in engineering sectors, offering two dual qualifications in engineering area. So you have a bachelor's degree with a 4 years. If you complete a 4-year bachelor's degree, you get a degree as well as a diploma. In the recent Maclean's 2020 ranking, Canada's top 10 university, Canada's #1 university in undergrad research area for last 5 years since 2015. Most impressive one is 97% of the students who graduate from Lakehead University uh, gets the employment within the 2 years of graduation. So this is phenomenal stats for the students who are looking to study abroad. Uh, One of the another significant stat is that they have dedicated about 11 million Canadian dollars for scholarship. Believe me, it's you don't find too many numbers like this for a university abroad, especially when you're looking as an international student. So it's a very good opportunity to learn about one of the very best schools in Canada directly from the university. We will have a question answer session as well at the end. But the idea is that if you have any questions, feel free to leave your uh, leave your questions on the fan page where you are at the moment. We will be answering as we can. We are looking about roughly about 60-minute session, but if we feel that there are answers to be given for the questions you have asked, we will go as long we can. However, now I would like to introduce our special guest, Amanda from Lakehead University, and get ready for getting some exciting news. Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning, Izir. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me again. It's great to hear that we got a positive response last week, and some of you want to know a little bit more about studying in Canada and specifically Lakehead.
Thank you very much for joining. I know you guys are doing fabulous job at doing webinars now and then. Even you were busy earlier today as well. But because of kind of information you are guys are sharing, it really helps us, people like us, to keeping students aware and updated. So that's why students really wanted to listen more and more and making sure that they're making the right decisions when they're applying abroad.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for.
So how is Lakehead?
Things are going well. You mentioned that interest in Canada last week and just kind of hearing more and more. And really the great thing that, Canada has really for the last 5 years promoted itself quite well in terms of why it's an international study destination and the ideal study destination. But what happened with COVID for me just reaffirmed our commitment to international students. The way Canada has responded to international students, supporting them if they were already here, and ensuring the ones who were committed to coming in the future had responses as soon as possible. I think that's something that just reaffirmed Canada's commitment to international students. So I'm very proud to be an institution within that country and to see that interest just growing. In terms of at Lakehead, we have been really excited to be there every step of the way, with everything going on COVID related. In some cases, there aren't answers, right? And I think that That's something that has come up quite frequently. But at Lakehead, we wanted to make sure we were there every step of the way, despite not having certain answers, just letting you know we are with you. Thankfully, we're getting answers, things are flowing. And that's what I'm here for. And Yazir mentioned, we were just on a webinar earlier today, and I'll definitely talk a little bit about those supports that you have in this time. But yeah, Yazir, you mentioned a few kind of key points about Lakehead earlier today. And Lakehead is a wonderful institution. You mentioned that #1 undergraduate research 5 years in a row. And that's something that, for those of you who don't know, is quite unique for a Canadian institution. Typically, research is done at the master's level. So for Lakehead to have it at the undergraduate level is very unique across all institutions. So students starting in their first or even their second year can start encountering research opportunities, which is something that doesn't happen quite often. So if you are a student, whether it's in the sciences or even, we have programs in the arts as well that have research opportunities. It's great to be able to connect to those quite early on, and it really helps with those job opportunities afterwards, right? So Yazir, you were mentioning that 97% average in terms of employment. That is something that's actually the above average than the provincial average, and that's because Lakehead includes all of those elements, right? And I know it's hard to kind of understand what research at the undergraduate level means or why it's valuable when you just hear about it as a statistic. So I always love to provide this one example from one of our students in Peru who started his first year in bioinformatics. And at the end of his first year, he was already working at the hospital with one of his professors as a researcher. And now with COVID, he's actually received funding to investigate COVID. So it's just really nice to see that in practice. And it's obviously going to improve his employment rate afterwards, which contributes to that higher employment rate. And the last thing I did want to mention about Lakehead is we are very proud to offer smaller class sizes as well. So you're looking at around a ratio of 15:1. That might increase if you're in an engineering class, but we still try and keep it quite small because we want you to have those interactions with those professors, right? And that's what leads to these next steps, so these research opportunities or work opportunities moving forward. And so that's something we're quite proud of.
Fantastic. Very well done, Amanda. You have explained so beautifully. I think it's a very good information for the students who are not a bit aware about where Lakehead University is, what Lakehead University is. I mean, of course, you can learn a lot from the website itself, but coming from the real-time examples, what you mentioned about the nursing students and the students who basically get experiences while they are studying is something what undergrad students definitely look into it, because experiences while they are studying, it's very essential, especially if they are looking to get some international experience that benefits not only while they are graduating from the university, but also they take that experience to their home country as well, which definitely while they are studying is a phenomenal I will say aspect while you study as well as you do the work as well. So I can see a beautiful picture behind you about tell us about some Thunder Bay, which for students who are not aware about where Thunder Bay is.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you see here to this side of me, you'll see our Thunder Bay campus, and we do love to show it because obviously it's quite the gem in Canada across campuses. So we actually have a lake on campus. A lot of times this is students' first introduction to skating in the winter. So that freezes over and students can skate. So there's really a lot of opportunities to just enjoy if you're living on campus just right beside you, right? Thunder Bay is located in Ontario. So we have two campuses. One of them is in Orillia, and the main campus, which is Thunder Bay, is also in Ontario. So For those of you who know Toronto, for example, that's the same province that these two campuses are located in, okay? If you are familiar with Toronto, if you're going to the Orillia campus, it's going to be a 90-minute drive, okay? If you're going to the Thunder Bay campus, it's going to be a 90-minute flight, okay? So if for students coming from their home country or coming from Canada, they would take a flight from Toronto to Thunder Bay. It's actually my favorite flight to take because the airport in Thunder Bay is so quaint and it has so many local products, and it's a great place to just eat something that's very Thunder Bay. Thunder Bay and Orillia are both cities that when you think about when you think about Canada and you think, oh, that's such a Canadian thing, or that's such a Canadian experience, they're thinking about these regions. So they're thinking about, you know, the canoeing, the fires, the camping, the fishing, the skiing, all of the stuff, the hiking that happens in Canada, or that we're proud that it helps improve our quality of life. Those are all things that are done on weekends here. Okay. So it's such a great experience. I'm actually from Toronto and I moved to Thunder Bay. And it's just quite the difference. It's a great quality of life. You know, there's great paying jobs, but at the same time, the cost of living is low. So people are very happy here for those reasons.
Fantastic. Yeah. I mean, a lot of international students always talk about, you know, when you go to a big city like, for example, Toronto, they always feel that it's more like a multicultural thing, and they feel that they are in their home country, back to their home country, right? But they are not really getting sometimes the experiences what Canada really has to offer, because once they are spending so much of time and investment and coming that far, they expect, you know, some real Canadian experiences as well, right? And what you are talking about is basically students not only, because like I was looking to the numbers as well again, and I saw that Lakehead has about 70 country students, right? Like, I mean, there is so much of diversified. Like, I mean, you not only just feel that you are in a place at your own, but also you find students from different nationalities, different countries as well. But at the same time, you are getting an exposure to an environment which is purely Canadian as well, right? So you get an opportunity to not only just to mingle with other peoples as well, but improve your. I mean, you really get an international exposure, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Canada, I mean, like you mentioned, we have over 70 nations represented in our student body. So we're not even talking about the cities right now, right? And that's something we're quite proud of, and something we hear quite often from students, that they're so excited to meet people from all around the world who have you know, different foods that they can try, or different traditions that they can do as well. In our international office, we actually have culture days that you can kind of explore different cultures, and that's all done by the students themselves. So not us, that's actually done by the students themselves. And so you get to experience all these different cultures. One of the most beautiful things about Canada is, you know, that multiculturalism, right? It's something that I've been very proud to be born and raised in Canada because of. It's just very welcoming, and that doesn't change when you come here to Thunder Bay. We actually have quite an incredible multicultural food scene. It's something that I have been pleasantly surprised by. I absolutely love the foods from all around the world here. And if you guys actually want to check out our YouTube channel, we have a brand new off-campus food tour where you actually can see students going to each restaurant, trying the foods, and you just start to salivate. It looks so delicious. So there are parts of home that you'll feel here, but then hopefully you'll start to feel like Lakehead can be your home away from home.
Okay, just stop talking about food. I'm already feeling hungry, Amanda. Well, that's so cool, because the student who is coming to coming that far, probably from Toronto for 2 hours, that they expect, like, they get their food as well, so that it's easier. And at the same time, they wanted to be, trying something different as well, which in a university where you have so many students from different nationalities, of course you get the opportunity to try those as well, right? So this is a truly multicultural and international exposure for international students from coming from different parts of the world. So guys, just remember one thing, and I just wanted to make sure that you guys can put your questions on the screen, and we will be answering those questions later on. But hopefully this discussion will be very useful for you in terms of getting the answers to your questions already. This is not a slideshow presentation, so don't expect the slides going to come here. It's going to be more like a general chat, but the general chat is going to be covering most of the things, which basically will be about the universities, what they're offering, about the programs, the scholarships, and all the stuff related to that. So Amanda, coming back to the student support, because we have seen how much support the university has been given to the university representatives across the globe. We have been in touch with you, or through the YouTube channels, through the emails, through the telephones, so you guys have been doing amazingly stuff. What's for international students support virtually?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. When March hit, I believe, we thought, or at least something that Lakehead prided itself in, was being fully accessible. So, and it's something that I've loved about the institution, that students, if they want to connect with someone, they can find someone right away. And that person is going to be a human. It's going to be a friendly face. And that was just so consistent. So when March happened, we were really challenged to figure out how to provide the same amount of support and that same accessibility, but virtually. So you did mention, these wonderful webinars that were happening. Immediately, what we did was we started something called Lakehead Live. And Lakehead Live, it talked about the programs that you were interested in. So you got to meet with faculty on Fridays, but we also had an update every Wednesday. So you would meet with our Director of International Enrollment, and you would get updates on everything that was happening, anything new that was coming up, what we knew about COVID, what we knew about the next semester, what we knew about students finishing their final semester, because of course current students were still in their semester, and so we were challenged with that. And in a lot of cases, like I mentioned previously, there were times where we did not have the answers, and any global institution would not have the answers, but we wanted to be there to just say, we are here with you, and we are waiting for the moment that you can come. And so the other thing that we did was we made sure that our in-market representatives were available immediately. Okay, so we developed a tool that students can book an appointment within 20 minutes with their market representative to get support, or to get answers, or to get questions, right? And then the other thing is, of course, we have something called an online community of care. So for students who did start classes online, that was the second step. Okay, how do we provide the services that are typically on campus, but virtually, right? So students were still able to, access health and wellness services via Zoom. Students were still able to access tutoring. Students were still able to access academic writing. So everything transitioned, and I'm super proud of how we did that so quickly to be able to support students. So the one thing we can assure you is that we will be there. And I think that, in the last few months, it's shown that Lakehead can really provide that next level support and that personalization that I think is very exclusive to Lakehead.
Great. I mean, I can guarantee it on this as well, because we have, from the time, as Amanda mentioned, the time when the things started in March and April, and we started to go into the lockdown scenario, it was very difficult for us just to go to the website and see the updates. It can only be happened through the live seminars and webinars from the university staff, and we were so proud that we were getting so much of information, updated information on how the things can be. And through the question and answers sessions and through the live webinars, we were able to update and upgrade ourselves. So things did change from March till now, and the information what we have through fantastic support from Lakehead, I can just assume that without that kind of support, we would be knowing that much, of course. So just imagine, you guys, that you will be getting so much of a support when you are coming to, not just to coming to Canada, but also when you're doing your online studies as well. And you basically get a tremendous support from the university staff, technically, as well as in terms of when you're applying for admission processes and all those related stuff. So this is another thing I was about to ask Amanda, that since March till now, do you think that international recruitment, when you talk to international students virtually, has it become more challenging, demanding, more innovative?
Yeah, so the first thing we noticed was a huge increase in inquiries, right? So I really do think it's attributed to how Canada handled the response to international students compared to other international destinations and how they handled their international students currently living there. So immediately we saw an increase in inquiries, and it was great that we had that tool so that the students could meet with their in-market recruiters immediately and kind of have that support and at least start planning their year ahead, right? So a lot of these students, it's not that they wanted to start immediately, but they wanted to plan how to study in Canada, and so that's the first thing we saw. But we were challenged with how to make things more interactive, so not necessarily more not a passive media, right? So students, I think, are very familiar with passive ads where they'll be prompted to be interested in an institution or apply to an institution, and so what Lakehead said is, how can we number one, interact with the student, and number two, really help them understand what it's like studying at Lakehead. So for being interactive, again, we had those Lakehead Lives, but we also have our virtual tour, right? So students can actually go through and they can interact with the campus without actually being on campus. And then the second thing we did was we wanted to make sure that students had enough access to information about what it was like being a student here. So we had a whole bunch of videos developed. They're incredible. So I definitely welcome you to check out our YouTube channel, where we had students tell their story about packing from back home, saying goodbye to their families, and then arriving at their new families here at Lakehead, because we always offer airport pickup. So even though students weren't arriving in Canada at the time, we wanted to show them, this is what you can hope for, and this is what you can be hopeful for the next year. We also have that food tour, so students really get to understand what their home is going to be like here. And so I think we are continued to be challenged on that end, but so far I think we've come up with some great innovative ways to make sure that students really understand and get hopeful for what's to come.
Great. I mean, this is something again and again we have mentioned, that it is very imperative for the international students that really before coming and landing to a country, you should be knowing stuff what you are expected to face, for example, especially during the first few weeks when students are being really challenged in terms of grabbing information, updating themselves, like how to accommodate in certain scenarios. And these webinars through Lakehead University always help you to really understand that what is to be expected, how to deal with the snow, for example, who are coming for the first time, talking about the activities during while you are in during the holiday time, what kind of things you can expect, for example. This really is helpful while you are basically intending to travel abroad. So really appreciate what Lakehead University is doing for international students as well, in terms of making them aware beforehand while they come to Canada, of course. Now, winter session, we all know that for Canadian, I mean, as you mentioned earlier as well in your sessions, the winter session is going to be all online, right? Is it going to be both for undergrad and postgrad?
That's correct, Yasir. So we have, based on health officials who have made the recommendation that the classes will be online for January 2021, okay, for both undergraduate and graduate studies. There are a few labs, but that would be typically for students who are in their later years. So students starting in their first year would not have to be on campus. So that means that you can start studying from your home country. There are, certain criteria that you need to make sure in terms of your study permit, if it's in order. And we welcome you to join us on any of our weekly events to learn more about that or connect with Easier. And I think a lot of the times with this new online approach, we're seeing an influx of new types of students, right? So maybe, professionals who are working and want to start their studies, but because of having the full-time job or having responsibilities, we're unable to start. So we are seeing kind of new avenues of students coming in as well.
Excellent. So this is a very good opportunity, because if considering the international students who are paying quite a bit of amount in terms of tuition fees as well, if they're going for an online studies for the first semester, for example, they save quite a bit of amount in terms of accommodation and living costs, right? That's the other thing, that ternary expenses are much more lower than a big city like Vancouver or Toronto area. But at the end of the day, it's still a bit of saving while you're doing online classes for the first few months, right, Amanda?
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. So this is another thing that for January, you mentioned about the undergrad programs. Now, are they going to be the same like they can start in January, and if the things get better, fingers crossed for September, they can join in September for second year?
Yes. So if students start in January, again, pending all of those conditions in terms of their study permits and all of that are in line. And the idea is that when classes resume, they would resume on campus. Okay. Absolutely.
Excellent. So just a reminder to everybody that there are quite a few sessions coming up for Lakehead University covering the postgrad admissions, as well as a bit of information about the study permit from the immigration advisor as well. Can you highlight on that, Amanda?
Yeah, so what I recommend is that students visit our Lakehead Live page, okay? Because they can see everything that's upcoming and then register directly through their account, okay? That would be my best recommendation.
Excellent. Okay, so those questions related to the study permit, or if you are doing an online studies and you need a study permit, you can be answered for during those sessions by the appropriate persons.
I'm just going to drop a link in the chat to that, so students are aware that they can register there.
Excellent. Okay, so I just found out that now Lakehead University is also accepting Duolingo for January.
Yes. So because of the challenges that students are facing to attend traditional English exams, we have included Duolingo, which is something you can do from home, and they have a number of security measures to ensure it is the student completing it. And we are looking for a Duolingo score of 110 with a for most programs. So almost all programs would be 110, with the exception being nursing, which would be 120, and education, which would also be 120. Okay. At the graduate level as well, we are looking for the same thing. Results are available in 48 hours, and we are a designated learning center on their platform, so you can get those results sent directly to us.
Right. Excellent. So I can see quite a few questions coming up, but we will go to them. We are just about to finish a few of the things I have in my mind in terms of things to be asked. The most favorite one for everybody of us, guess what?
Scholarship.
Scholarship. Yeah, here we go. You got if you would have guessed a number for bingo, you would have won that too. So tell us about some lucrative scholarship you guys offering throughout the year.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's something I'm actually really excited to talk about because Lakehead is one of the leading providers of scholarships for international students at the undergraduate level. What we do is for students who are completing high school or they've completed high school in the last 2 years and didn't go into another degree, for example, or they're transferring from their degree to our institution, we would consider them for our entrance scholarship grid, okay? And, Yazir, you, of course, with every applicant that's interested, you can, advise them on what their average would look like, but I'll give a quick run through, okay? So what we do is we look at that final year and see what your average is, and we'll convert it to a Canadian equivalent of a percentage, okay? So that would be 0 to 100. For students who have a 75 to a 79%, we're looking at giving the student a $6,000 scholarship for their first year of tuition only. For students who have an 80 to an 89%, we're going to give students a $7,500 scholarship per year. So this one would be per year. The highest scholarship a student can receive, which would be if they have a 90% or above in their final year, that would be $10,000 per year. So that one would be a $40,000 scholarship if the student were to receive that one, right? Overall from the 4 years, right? The other thing to keep in mind is that if students are in or receive the 80% one, right? They are required to maintain that 80 to get it year after year. So if you came in and you arrived with an 89, we're only looking for you to maintain an 80. And, Lakehead can provide those academic supports like tutoring and academic writing to make sure you maintain that.
Excellent. And I was just hearing one more thing and during the session is that if you have applied for a scholarship, say for example, with a 75% and above, you are eligible for $6,000 scholarship for 1 year. If a student gets about like 74%, would they still be eligible, or like not too much of off from the scholarship, but like would that be removed from the offer?
So what happens is if the student has a 75% at their midterm grades, we'll give them the $6,000. If the student decreases their average in their final grades, they're allowed to keep that $6,000, okay? We really hope you won't, of course. You're going to try and strive to get higher, because if you do get higher, we'll move you to that second.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's good opportunity. Like if you have 75% and you're expecting that to increase to 80%, which is a very good sign that you can move to the second slab of the scholarships, which is $7,500, right?
Absolutely.
Excellent. So I think now we will just, before we go to the questions and sessions, tell us about something about your virtual open house coming out this Saturday.
Yeah, so it's quite an exciting time, of course. We mentioned a little bit about those new innovative ways we can interact with you students. And one of them is our exclusive virtual open house that's happening this Saturday, October 24th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You please invite your friends, your family, kind of sit down, explore Lakehead. You can talk to professors. So if you can't decide between an environmental program or a biology program, you can talk to both professors, learn a little bit about their differences, and see kind of what excites you a little bit more. The other great thing about this is that we are offering for students who do attend the virtual fair, we are offering, we're putting their name into a draw for first year tuition, okay? So if you do attend, you would be put into that draw and potentially receive first year tuition, which Yazir, is a great prize.
Of course, this is such a good incentive. Just by attending the open house, you are eligible for that. I mean, you probably will be coming to the draw sections, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's a very good incentive for them. And guys, don't forget to attend this open house on coming Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Canadian time. That is Toronto time, right, Amanda?
It's Toronto time, correct.
Toronto time. So I will keep you posted as well about this. Now I will go to the question answers, which we have a few of them, and in the meanwhile I will let Amanda to answer them. So Amanda, the first one I can see is that okay, so this is a more or less international students, of course, based outside Canada. So should I apply for English language program and master's program starting in January together? Do I have to pay separate admin fees, $100 each for ESL and master's program?
That's a great question. So what you would do is you would submit the application for, I'm assuming the student has already applied for January, correct? Because January intake is closed right now for graduate. So assuming the student has already applied, you do not need to submit an additional graduate English application. What happens is if you were admitted conditionally on entering your English language program, you would be contacted by Grad Studies in terms of how to proceed with doing a free application for your English program to start it in January. I think that sufficiently covers that question. I'm not quite sure if the student is, has applied or not.
Right. I'm not sure either because this is just a question from the students. So.
Overall, that's how it would function. So if a student does receive an offer with the condition of arriving at our English language program, the graduate team will actually be in touch with you in terms of how to submit that application, and it won't be an additional cost, okay? We'll give you a code that would allow you to bypass that. Just a quick note on that is there are some programs that will offer conditional admissions if you do not have the full language proficiency. So let's say you got an IELTS of 6 and you wanted to submit an application. We looked at your profile. You had a strong academic profile. You had a relatively strong English. So we're going to admit you with our English language program. That is definitely something that we do. However, in some programs that are a little bit more competitive, for example, computer science or engineering or MBA, it is recommended to have at least a high English proficiency, if not the exact English proficiency before applying, just to make sure you are competitive.
Sure. Okay, the second one I have is, so if somebody who is already applying, I think this is the same question from the same guy. If a person who has gotten ELP offer with conditional offer with the master's program and he does not scores the relevant, does not get the required grades at ELP, does he have to redo it or does he have to just do the IELTS and do the master's?
So the student starts in January for their English language program, and you will need to complete that successfully. So your level 5 successfully in order to move on to your academic classes.
Okay. So how competitive it is? I believe computer science master's program starts in May, right?
So our next intake would be September. For engineering and computer science, we have a one-time only intake in May.
Okay, so how competitive, the question is how competitive it is to apply for a master's program, because computer science for Lakehead is one of the very popular ones which gets filled very quickly, right? So,
yes. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so what do you recommend? Like the students should be applying as soon as they should be, but like what really makes their application a bit different?
So particularly for computer science, we want to make sure you actually have a strong computer science background. So we see a lot of the time students just have a information technology background and it doesn't have a sufficient amount of computer science. One of the key factors in an application for computer science is something called a computer science background information form. And what that is it's asking you to provide all of that complete background. So I would say ensure that you have a competitive application in terms of the background and sufficient knowledge you have within computer science, and in the workplace as well, and make sure you're completing that computer science background form pretty rigorously. So just keep an eye on providing the best information that you can on that form.
Excellent. And just a reminder for this who are applying for master's program, we are having a master's, as Amanda mentioned, that we will be having an open house on Saturday, which you can attend and probably ask these questions related to, so that you get a pretty decent idea about the application, how to make an application and what they are considering for those applications. The another one which is very common to be asked, that do reference letters need to be in sealed envelope and sent directly from the university?
Yep, so this is a great question because Lakehead does references a little differently. When you're submitting your application with Yazir, you would have provided him with 3 reference contact information, okay? So that would be their phone number and their email. It has to come from an institutional email. So it can't be an @Gmail, it can't be a Hotmail. It has to come from the institutional email, okay? So you would provide that contact information, and we actually reach out to the reference directly. So you do not need to provide those reference letters to us in the application.
Excellent. This is for both undergrad and postgrad, Amanda?
So for undergrad, we will not require any reference checks or letters at all.
Excellent. So this is great news, guys. I mean, you just can submit your application. So for undergrad application, my understanding is just submit the transcript, whatever is available, and that's it.
Yeah, so the great thing about Canadian institutions is that at least at the undergraduate level, it's a very clear, clean-cut application process. We are looking for your grades. It's very academic heavy, so we're looking for your transcripts, at least your midterm marks or predicted grades in your final year will do. If you have your language proficiency already, you can submit that right away at the same time, and that way we can assess you for both your offer and removal of conditions. So, what happens is that students at the undergraduate level apply and they just submit their transcripts, and then we can do an offer. If you provide no English proficiency, the offer will be conditional on English language studies. If you do provide it, we'll remove that condition.
Right. Excellent. I think these are some very interesting questions from these guys, because I know a lot of people who are applying to Canadian universities, they are pretty much, I would say, stranded when they have to send, dependent on the university to send the sealed envelope directly to the school. And then it's a little bit of different at this moment of time when they have to follow up with the students and with the school, right?
Yeah. So, and something, Yazir, that is probably a good time to mention now is that for final official transcripts or even unofficial transcripts, we will also accept them directly from the institution. So if you have your high school email us directly, we can use that. You don't have to submit the paper version, okay? It just needs to come from an institutional email as well. But many of the high schools and even post-secondary schools, because of COVID, have made this available. So they've been sending this out to institutions that students are inquiring about.
I think at this moment of time, every school setup has been working virtually. It's not just in Canada, in Pakistan as well, in India as well, and it's easily accessible that students can request the reference name and letters directly to the university. So it's very easier and convenient to them. And it's much more speedy as well. It's just they have to send the email, right? It's just like when they do it.
Correct.
So another thing is okay, so I'm an intermediate. I think this is from Pakistan. I'm an intermediate part 2 grade 12 and expect to get results in June. Can I apply on basis of current education, which is grade 11, and have conditional offer if I meet the prerequisites?
So no, we cannot make a conditional offer on grade 11, but if you can provide midterm grades or predicted grades, we can do a conditional offer off of that, okay? So that is very common in Canada as well, to receive your final grades in June. So most Canadian students get a conditional offer until they get their final transcripts in June as well. So no worries about that, as long as you have your midterm ones, but we cannot do it only off 11.
Okay, all right. And I believe this is related to your MBA program, and the MBA normally requires a GMAT, which is mandatory. But is there any like a pre-MBA or like a pre-sessional before MBA for somebody who does not score well in GMAT?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a requirement for GMAT. It's absolutely required at the MBA level. However, if you have your English language proficiency and you have that high academic profile and the overall requirements, you can be considered for our business skills development program, which is like a pre-MBA. So students would arrive 2 months prior to their MBA, complete the program, and then start in September their MBA. It is an option. We do recommend that you have at least 2 of the other requirements if you even want to be considered for that.
Okay, so guys, this is such a fantastic information in terms of like those who are applying for undergrad level. You just need to submit your referee. There's no referee requirement for undergrad applications, whereas for postgrad, you just need to submit 3 email addresses of your references and the name, and then that has to come directly from the referee to the university, and that's it. And honestly, with considering the scenario right now, how challenging it is for all international students who are applying abroad to get the paperwork from the institutions, because either they are closed or they are not able to get, because they're all working from home. Working and like just getting the email addresses and doing all digitally is much more easier to apply now for Lakehead programs. So, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, Lakehead, when you're choosing a university abroad, you just need to make sure and understand how much support not only the university is giving to the international students, but how it is ranked globally, as well as in terms of their individual programs. So you are choosing a university. You're talking about a university which is very high rank in last 5 years in different programs, and overall ranking has been so significant. So you are not, you're not. And of course, the scholarship is so much high for international students that it all depends upon the individual grades what you have, and you definitely can apply for it at master's or undergrad level. So is there any last minute, Amanda, you'd like to add something? Especially, I mean, I will encourage the students to come for the virtual open house on Saturday. And what thing else you need? I mean, you basically will be qualified for an draws right away.
Sorry, Yazir, I didn't hear that part.
Yeah, is there any last minute thing you would like to add, Amanda, before we close up?
Oh no. All I would like to say is thank you so much. I'm really hoping that everybody is still excited about their journey to Canada. It's all about preparation. So the one thing you can look at is that this has been a lot of time to prepare, and we really hope that you can join us this Saturday between 10 and 2 to talk to the different teams. And I really encourage you to do that. It'll be an exciting virtual experience, and hopefully you guys can attend. Thank you so much, Yazir, for doing these events. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Amanda, for taking time, and I hope a safe day and a good day rest of the day. Take care.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye. Hi guys, just to remind everybody, do attend Lakehead University Virtual Open House on coming Saturday from 10 to 2 p.m. Toronto time. It's a very good opportunity for all those who are looking to study in Canada to get more information about the programs, about the questions they have about for the application process. It's one kind of event which you are attending. It's kind of a open house which normally universities try to have students in person as well, but at the same time, because of the considering the scenario right now, it's a very good opportunity for you to meet different faculties, get different, to have a chance to meet different admission committee members for undergrad and postgrad, and learn more about the universities. So again, the time is 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on coming Saturday. If you need further information, please feel free to either WhatsApp us on the number mentioned below, which is coming on the slide, or you can also email us at admissions@studentsolution.co.uk for further information. We will keep coming up with this kind of sessions regularly, considering a lot of information do request us to bring these sessions. So hoping to bring this kind of sessions very soon for another university. So in the meanwhile, as I mentioned, do feel free as to message us on WhatsApp on the number mentioned below. But keep yourself safe in this very challenging time, guys. Hope to see you guys very soon. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.